we got to talk about some 2024 stuff. You have Tim Scott that dropped out. I think Vivek Ramaswamy's got to go. And I think Chris Christie has got to go. I think they have to go because they're just drags anymore. They really are. Someone was floating the idea of Vivek Ramaswamy being RNC chair. I just think that maybe you want to have voted Republican more than like one time and haven't given a bunch of money to Democrats before you start running the RNC. That's true. You can feel free to go find it on my Substack, chapter and verse, where I included screenshots of all the hashtag receipts. So I just think that that's kind of a bad idea. I do think my original assessment of Nikki Haley in this race was that she was running to be VP. I stand by that assessment. I still think that that is true. Case in point, a friend of mine had noted, let me pull this up, that the whole, like, she's only apparently mentioned Trump one time in 2 months. In 2 months, she's only mentioned Trump once. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go out and constantly, like go and attack Trump base. I'm just saying if you are running to be president, wouldn't you go after the front runner? The perceived front runner? Wouldn't you go after that person? Now, I've told everyone to be cautious of national polls, especially this far ahead of the first votes in Iowa, because national votes really are just more of a measure on popularity, or national polls rather are just more of a measure on popularity. It's not really a good measure of fundraising, etc. All this stuff. And with this, Iowa and New Hampshire are going to be the ultimate deciding factors. But Haley, I could see, technically I could see Trump maybe picking somebody like Haley. But I think that she's still running to be VP. Because she's still, her foreign policy is what hangs me up. Her foreign policy is one that I cannot abide. And I don't dislike her as a person. I think I met her once backstage at a speaking event. I think she had spoken right before me. I can't remember. I know I met her once very, very briefly. Never really spoken with her. But, she's very nice. It's not a personal thing. I just don't agree with her foreign policy. I think it's very it's neocon. It really is. It's very W. Bush. Very, 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 very much so. It is like a flashback to that. I have a problem with that. That's a big problem with me. And so especially when you still have you still have better choices, I think, in the primary, it's just a no-go for me. But I just still, because she never says anything about Trump. And I just think that when you're focusing everything on the second person in this primary in terms of polling, etc., then to me, it sounds like you're running a stalking horse campaign, which I would bet money on it that Vivek is. I would bet literally six figures on that. I think that Haley is also. Not so much a stalking horse. I don't think that there's any kind of secret agreement. I do think that she does want to be VP, because I don't think that she would translate nationally with her foreign policy and some of her other approach. I think she would try to moderate going into the general, but I think it would be too late. And also, I think that because she was in the Trump administration, that branding is going to stick to her. And you remember, it does not matter if you like the whole idea of the MAGA label. That's irrelevant here. What I'm telling you is that all of this is decided in the margins, and I'm telling you what the margins think of that branding. And the margins they rejected it last Tuesday. They rejected it in Virginia, and they rejected it in Ohio. So you have to finesse the branding. And she is branded with that because she was a part of the administration. So you have to consider that. Again, this is not people disagreeing with you about who you like or what you perceive to be your priority in the primary. This is people like me wanting to win in 2024. That is literally my only concern, is I want to win. I don't care. I don't have fealty to any candidate because I don't believe in that. You know this. They should have fealty to us. I will never bend a knee to a candidate, ever. I never have a loyalty like that to a candidate, ever. I have rejected overtures from candidates before. I have rejected job offers from candidates before. I have zero interest in that kind of pay cut because my special interest is my audience. I have zero interest in that. And I also, I cannot, I can't. That's just not my deal. And so I want to win. I just want to win in 2024. That is the only, if you want to know about my perspective, that's literally the perspective through which I see everything. And 2024, I think more so than any other election, is all margins. And people need to be looking at Ohio and Virginia as giant, giant warning signs. And they're not. It's going to be decided by the margins. Now, I will say there have been a couple of people that I think are making a decent point. Now, so Ann Coulter and I used to talk. We were never like BFFs or anything like that. We knew each other. And she and I got in it in the 2016 because in the very beginning of the primary, I was back in Perry, and she liked Trump for his immigration stuff. And I always went for governors over non-governors. And we got in it. And she like unfollowed me on social media and all this stuff. Totally unfollowed me. And then she turned around and then she was like harsher than anybody on Trump. And she said, I will say this, made a point where I don't necessarily agree all the way or disagree all the way, because there's a lot of nuance here. The point that she brought up, and I've heard a couple of other people make this point similarly, is she was saying that Republicans have to be careful, particularly on what she called a hardline anti-abortion stance. So she's pro-life, a hardline anti-abortion stance, because she says the left is going to make that the defund the police of the GOP. Now, I've seen this worded differently from other people, and we've talked about it here on the show. Because where's the election determined? On the margins. And that's why you see this messaging from the left, especially with the issue of abortion in these states that have passed it after Roe v. Wade sent everything back to the states. Republicans have been very, very bad in navigating the messaging and saying that, yes, stop saying that there aren't exceptions. There are literally exceptions, literally in every single state that has passed any kind of regulation on this. But here's the problem that they're running up against. So this is another thing that I saw. It was, what's his face? He used to, Chris Wallace. He was over at Fox. Now he's over at CNN. He said something very interesting. He was saying that how do Republicans now, how are they going to talk to voters about this? Because how are you going to tell them that you're pro-life, but yet, you want the 15-week? I'm pulling this story up, so bear with me. This was, I think, he said, why is the abortion murder crowd says 15 weeks is fine? Now, that's the point that he made on CNN on Sunday. Now, it is, first off, he's begging the question. He's begging the question with us because he's presuming that he's saying that, the abortionist murder people are saying 15 weeks is fine. Thus, so why are they saying that as a way to intimate that the legitimacy of the movement is called into question? But he's assuming that his premise is sound, thus the conclusion is sound. So he's begging the question because he's making these assumptions. No one is saying that 15 weeks is fine. They're saying that they will start at that point to walk it back. If that saves an additional X amount of lives, then they will move to that point away from abortion on demand up until birth, taxpayer funded. They will move to that point. That's what they're saying. But remember, when you are explaining, you are losing. And again, where are elections won and lost? Especially the last two. Margins. That is never going to be more important ever than it will be in 2024. It's all about the margins. This is going to be something that will play in the margins, which is why Republicans, I know, I get it. It's like we've been arguing about this damn issue forever. I get it. And I also understand if you're pro-life and you think that any compromise, but do you want to say, let's not save any lives if I can't get everything I want, or let's start convincing people and start saving more lives and work incrementally? I mean, and then at least save more lives today than you did yesterday. That's how a lot of other people look at it. And there has to be a way to quickly and efficiently message that in 30 seconds or less, where you're not in this never-ending cycle of explaining and then losing credibility, because the longer you explain, the investment of legitimacy that a voter has in you will decrease. They will start to question your credibility the longer you take to explain something. And so that they have got to get a handle on this, because that is what the left is gearing up to do.